And mid-tones here. So these lighter tones, I like to think that I'm actually painting with light, that these lighter colours on top, forget it's painting, you're actually putting those highlights in. It gets more. The first part is just dross. We want to get rid of this white canvas as quickly as possible and just get some base coats on. And we can do that with a brush, we can do that with a sponge, we can do that with sponge rollers, all sorts of fingers. And I'm going to do a little bit of everything just to show you, and then you help yourselves. You use whatever techniques you want, all right? So if you don't want to use your fingers, so you don't want to get messy, that's all right. If you do, then I'll use a brush or whatever. Now the light bit here for the sky I'm going to leave for the minute. Let's just work, because we can work with, that's the beauty of acrylics and oils, is because they're a matte medium, we can work lights over darks and we can work darks over lights. So you watercolourists, if you've not done this before, it's totally the opposite of what you've got to get used to being able to put your lights over your darks. So when I do a tree like this, I can paint all that area in and I can bring these darks over the lights, but I'm able to, unlike watercolour, go back and put the lights into the darks as well, which is a great way. This is lovely luminosity. What colours? Well, I want fairly cool in the background at the moment, so I'm going to cheat slightly because I'm using a different palette to probably what you're using. Now this yellow, it's very transparent, you can see the drawing through it, and that's one of the problems with many paints, is the yellows always tend to be a bit thin. So let's get a cool going first of all. A little bit of cerulean and some lemon yellow I'm using here at the minute for a very light green. And I'm just going to use that. Now, from the very beginning now, I can use whatever I want. I can use my fingers to get textures. I can use the brush to get textures. I can add in block work. I can push the brush like that to get textures. I can bring it down to get leafy textures like that. You don't need to see that from there, but you know the variety you can do just with the brush or your fingers before you even start to add on with the sponge and other things there. And I want to get these cool tones going on in the background. The lights up here, it's very light up there, a little bit more blue. I'm going to go very rapidly today because I know we haven't got a lot. What time do we finish? 12:30. Yeah, so we've got a couple of hours then, so it should just manage all right. Going much cooler back here, so I've taken more of the cerulean now and a little bit of white, and I've made it much bluer. I'm using little vertical strokes here. We're going to use all sorts of ways of working today. Little vertical strokes going up there. We're going to discuss how to get reflections in water today as well. When you've got a colour on your brush and it's somewhere else, paint it all over. In other words, if I've got that colour here and it's also coming down here, then I'm going to put it in there. And you notice I'm using vertical strokes in the water here. I haven't gone straight to painting across, as what people tend to do. If you want smooth, reflective water, then do vertical strokes, paint the depth of the water, paint the reflections, paint the shadows in the water, and then come across the surface afterwards. And that'll give you a wonderful effect of placid water. If we're doing moving water, like a trout stream or cascading river or whatever, then it's big gestural brush strokes. So it's vertical strokes first, and then we'll gradually bring some surface over it afterwards. I'm going to just change colours as I go along. Right, as I come forward, that's a very cool green. As I come forward, they gradually get warmer. So I'm going to deliberately take a little bit of yellow ochre now and make that green a little bit warmer here. And you see how immediately that pushes that back. What we want to do is get this aerial perspective. So we've got our greens coming warmer and warmer here. I'm going to go very warm. I'm going to take a little bit of burnt sienna now. And again, you can see immediately you go straight back. Yeah, go warmer and warmer. I'm going to go even stronger green. I'm going to add a bit of, in my case, I've got some radium here.
First green, it was lemon yellow. And
that was lemon yellow and
cerulean.
Cerulean, yeah. And then I put a bit of white into it to make it just cooler there. We're going to use some subtle pink soon as well. Right, it's a very strong but much warmer green, although it's got a bit of blue in it. And now we're playing with tone as well as the colour hues. So we've got the colour hues of warm and cool. Now we're getting tone as well. Up here that green changes again.
Is that from it again?
Was it yellow ochre that you added?
Yellow ochre was the warm, that's right, that I brought through to there. I'm adding a bit of cobalt now blue to this to give an even bluer green. Now, as I was saying with the red against the greens, the opposites in the colour circle, one colour can make such a difference. So if I were to make this all cool colours, to make them look even cooler, I'd paint a warmer. One of the reasons I also said to paint the colour all over when you're using one, if it's here, whatever it is. I mean, this colour is down here now, so I need to go down there. There's a tip of the brush to go in, a little bit more water. So if I want to fine a line, I can go quite fine with it. So we've got with these brushes, you've got the ability to be able to go big flat or edge on, sideways for textures, and you can just go down in brushes. But to keep the whole thing going. Right, my sayings again from the past, if we start loose, we can finish tight. We cannot start tight and go loose, it's virtually impossible. So I start loose and I go tighter and tighter and tighter until I start painting. I mean, I've used a brush tool now, but there's nothing to stop me from putting fingers, and I get you lovely marks with your hands. And I could actually do this whole painting simply by adding, and I'm going to take some more blue into that. Gradually add the colours as I go along up here.
Does it matter that it's dried whilst you've been talking?
No, because I'm going to work up and over it. And now you get hard edges with the acrylic. With oils you can blend them later. But as I can work over the top, I'm not at all worried about it now. So I'm going to have great fun. Get in there and enjoy today. You know, let's throw aside all the things you've been taught. And I often find, I mean, we had a new student in that first lesson the other day with the flowers. This lady came in and she'd never painted before in her life. I didn't know she hadn't painted, didn't even ask that as time gets on. And she did this fantastic piece, a lovely painting. And I said, well, what medium did you use before? Well, I haven't, this is my first time ever. And the point was that she was probably better because she had no bad habits. And she just did what I asked her to do and followed it. And it just worked, it was fantastic. So, we can get all these lovely effects, soft effects. I can use a bit more water, make it thinner at first, I can use it thicker, I can add more colour, if that's a little bit of that colour there. With these lovely different. Now that's a cooler green. Look, I'm putting some deep turquoise into that one because I've got more colours than what you've got. But you've got enough. I could just use what you've got there. So we've got the cools coming in across here as well. Right, so we can use fingers. I'm going to use a bit of everything. Come back, and I wanted to show you how the roller works in a minute as well. So we'll do that in just a minute. The paint started off. Once you've got it on the roller and the roller's got plenty of paint in it, it'll work better. At the moment I'm using some very light magenta and a little bit of sap green, but as I say, there's so many variations we could do on this. That magenta is going to be an important colour right through this painting. There's a lot of magenta in this painting. Down through the water here, down through here, the very light magenta, even into the sky. I'm going to do that sky in just a moment. But let's just get this going. Right, I just want to roll that through here for a minute. So if I press hard, I get a nice even coat, nice and quick. And I'm just showing you how we can use this roller, that's all. Now with the roller I can use it flat, or I can actually rub with it a little bit to get textures. And I can put stronger paint on that way if I want to. And I can use it, we're talking about verticals just now, let's start to put a few verticals into here just to get the feeling of water going straight away. Just to give you an idea how loosely we can work with these, keep these verticals and the horizontals going. How can I use it with the horizontal? Let's just say I wanted to do a finer line. I'm just going to make some darker colour here just for the fun of it, just so I can show you how we can use these rollers. And you can see those marks going on in those paintings over there, and I can see how I was doing and why I was doing, right down to here. It comes through there. I can smudge that way around. I can use my fingers. I'm trying to get you to be versatile here. I'm trying to get you to start to loosen up in your painting and not be bogged down with. Take some water on my fingers. Sleeves up there and enjoy. It's here to enjoy. areas here. And I'm making my marks crisscross. I'm making them very much about what I've got in the background there. Already you can see the pictures starting to appear. And you can see these softer greys in the background, the light colours I've done. I don't need to go really dark into this as yet, I just want to get the feeling of it. And if I start to now bring just some of these verticals down in, if I just start to make some of these reflections and bring across as well, look at the effect of water we get by doing verticals first and then the horizontals afterwards. So the verticals first and little bits of leaf and things on afterwards, we get that lovely effect of water, which so many people tend to paint water just on strokes across. If you start using these verticals first, it's so much more. So this is a cool yellow then, so I'm doing a very cool yellow, light cream up here. I'm going to put that in with a brush, straight in, and look how light that is. Now, by putting various colours over that, look, I can break into my dark here already. It's almost trying to do that. I can come straight into here and put those lights in there whenever I want. So already I've got light against dark. Where else is that? Down here. I'm going to put a couple of bits of broken colour onto here just to give you an idea. I'm going to come cooler over here and be warmer around here. So I'm deliberately having a warmth around this area with this lemon yellow and white. And then I'm going to go pinker into it, and then I'm going to add a little bit of blue to really show you how we can, look how we can just make this light come into the dark as well down here. Right down much there. I'm going to bring these trees over there in a minute so I can put light over dark, dark over light, and go backwards and forwards. The sunlight just coming through in the background. Tip of the brush, so whichever size brush you want to use, but you can see how we can use the brush in such a versatile way from slabs to, that's the thing and the beauty of these little brushes. Now back on that sky, I'm going to take some magenta and add a little magenta to the same mix so it's a little bit pink. And I'm going to just put little strokes of that. It's up to you how you do this, but I'm just making the broken colour effect. So see how pink that goes there compared to that yellow. While it's still wet, I'll bring that in nice and warm, this little warm piece of colour here. It's making the warms now seem warmer. So these colours out here, because we're comparing colours, because I'm putting a bit of blue against it, that little bit of blue makes those others seem more vibrant. So that's broken colour, that's how you can make more vibrancy, that's broken colour together. Right, carrying on then, now I can start, because that's still wet, I can start to work into this more. I want to make these basically these blue greys. I'm taking some of my, you can either use ultramarine now or the cobalt, whichever you've got there, and a little bit of the yellow ochre. I'm making, whatever blue you've got with the yellow will make green. So I want some sort of blue grey greens happening here. And we get that lovely warm dark, which makes that look cooler. So we're playing rough against smooth, light against dark, warm against cool. Quite strong that just there. I'll take a bit more burnt sienna, but you say you do this as and when you want. Now a bit more of that magenta, so it's a bit warmer here now. That lovely bit of warmth. Look at the way that that comes in there. If I want to use a bit more water, I can. Some of these cheaper canvases, they're very coarse. They're very textural, so I've got to use a bit more water sometimes just to get into that. And now that answers your questions about when it's dry. I can come back over it, can't I? And I can gradually build this up lighter and lighter. Now let's take some more of that lovely lemon yellow on its own with the cerulean. So I'm trying to keep to your palette as much as I can. A little bit of white, I'm going to go a little bit lighter now. And at this stage I can start to think about texture. Those leaves coming down right here, and just feel the ends of them, using my brush to make these little bits of branch. Again, I could use my fingers. I could just take my fingers and come in and do these bits of branch the same way. Look at that look. So you don't have to use your brush. I'm going to deliberately keep working in all sorts of ways here, just so you can see the fun, the excitement we can have with painting. Don't get bogged down in doing it all one way. Look at those effects we can get to those leaves. And they're beautiful. And we're going to be doing both lights and darks. So I'm doing at the moment some lights coming in here, but we can also come in and put darks over the lights in a moment, which I'm going to do. And suddenly, like I was saying with watercolour, we've got the rough and the smooth. Now not only can we use the sponge dabbed, we can drag the sponge slightly, look, so I get an effect like that. So if I want reflections here, I can drag my sponge slightly, just like that, and across slightly if I want to get the effects of reflection. So don't take for granted that you can just use the sponge in just one way. The sponge can be used in several ways. I can drag it across here to start getting some reflection through here. It's good fun. You can see, I'm enjoying it, you know. I get doing a demo and right, yellow ochre and white, but I'm going to put a little bit of magenta into it, so we get a nice sort of orangey light colour for that one. Let's take some of that. I'm not even going to bother cleaning my sponge. Should be alright with this. And we'll start getting some of these slightly lighter bits of leaf just on here. Even on the water, you put a little bit of these leaves floating. You can put these in with an individual brush if you want to. You can come into this and just do this with a pointed brush. Warmer still, just go more orange. Take some more. That's yellow ochre there. And just pick up on some of my lights here. So you see the warms now playing against those back there. If I wanted to have more yellow in the trees, which I do, it's very strong yellow there. I'm going to start going down to a bit of chrome yellow now, but I've got several yellows in here. Right, at the moment they're fairly warm, those greens, fairly warm. I'm going to want to go much bluer in a minute and go more towards a cerulean. Right, let's look at those cools for fun. I was just talking about neat. I'm going to take some of that neat cerulean and use it as a green. So if it's on my brush, it's that. But if I take it and use it against the greens, it'll be quite surprising, I think you'll find. You start to get a lovely... You see how that looks like a green now? It's the light reflecting on it. So do remember your blues. Do remember your blues in the greens. They're very important. They're as important as yellow greens. Blues are very important. Now we're coming down to final details. I'm going to have to go and wash these sponges out. I'm going to change my brushes. I haven't had to use anything other than that brush at the moment, so you choose the brushes that you think suit your canvas size better. But now to finish off, I could go down to a very fine filbert. What I'm actually going to use is a little round. The feeling of these dark branches against the light. So I work from my mid-tones to my light, coming back now to my darks, and just picking out these darks here, making my marks about the stuff I'm actually working on. Got little bits of dark coming into here as well. So on the surface of the water now I can start to play with these little bits of leaf. So yes, you can use your fingers, you can use your... and we bring those darks into here so that they link together. Right, warmer colours and cooler colours. Those are my mid-tones. Let's look at really making things zing a bit and start to bring out... I'm going to take some turquoise. You might not have turquoise, but if you have, you can do it with the cerulean, but the turquoise will really make this sing. I'm just going to bring out the very light turquoise in some of these leaves here. Now look at that. Cool from the sky against the... I could do this with a pink in a minute as well. I'm going to put a bit of pink in here in just a minute. That turquoise is coming across into here. There in the background. It goes cooler up into here as well. So I'm playing all of these different warm and cool green hues together. Coming to my final highlights now, so I'm going to go back to my little round and let's really start to play these last very bright warms just to bring things out. So you get as tight as you want. Now you see I'm going from loose, gradually going tighter and tighter and tighter, and that brings out the warm. So I'm playing warm against cool. Just that one colour changes the whole thing. You really got to keep looking and saying, ooh, does it need to be bluer, does it need to be a little bit of blue there, just that one mark can make such a difference. Between a wee bit of... Now I'm going to use, because that's a warm, I'm going to deliberately take a little bit of cobalt and just put that in between to make that warm against the cool. And how that just pulls it back. It was just too much, but those little bits of blue look, link it with the rest. So don't just think green leaf, red flower, whatever. And this is your finishing touches. This is where you can go as detailed as you want, as photographic as you want. Lemon yellow, and you've got chrome yellow, lemon yellow, yellow ochre. But for your first greens, your cerulean blue and the yellow ochre will give you those first mid-greens. Prussian blue is your deepest blue. And that used with the burnt sienna will give you your dark.
Lemon yellow.
Put a few colours out. Put two or three. Put you can put white with it. Put 2 or 3 blues out and 2 or 3 yellows out, and experiment mixing them. Okay. Not just 1 or 2 colours, put several yellows, several blues out, and experiment with a small brush and see the difference between them, okay? In some cases you'll actually use the blue as it is. In some cases a bit of yellow, or warm yellow, cool yellow. So try your different variations, best for you to explore.
Don't know what.
So don't make the powder here. Oh yeah. These light. Once you get the white out.
Bye everybody.
Bye.
You'll be amazed.